Look, you may have met a business owner at some point in your life or your career, and you see this person, they go out and they buy failing or floundering businesses and they turn them around. I've seen guys go from 10 locations to 200 locations. I've seen guys go from 4 locations to over or nearly 40 locations. So I've done the same thing, but in personal training. You might be asking, how did that happen? I just want to go through a few things that to me makes a lot of sense, right? The things that how you actually increase revenue of your business through personal training, how you're going to maximize conversions. So first thing we're going to talk about is maximizing conversions. The second thing that we're going to be walking through is implementing a referral campaign or a reactivation campaign to really boost and enhance it. And then what you do to make sure that you have that continuous result going forward. So how do you maximize what you've got? How do you make conversions better? Well, one of the persons that I just recently spoke with, they have a gym, obviously, and they're in a position where they're seeing only, $6,000 a month in personal training, but yet they have over 1,000 members. And how do they make that conversion happen? Well, one of the things that we were talking about is every single person that walks in the door needs to get a free training session. Well, free doesn't cut it, and I'll tell you why. You just think about it for you as a consumer. Do you always take something that's free, right? Are you going to go out of your way to go get something that's free? Probably not, right? I see things on the side of the road sometimes that are free. I don't want to pick them up. Okay. So it doesn't usually have a lot of value because the thought process is that it wasn't good for somebody else. Why would it be good for me, right? It's free. Somebody's giving it away. So in that very first instance, anytime somebody's signing up for a membership, instead of saying, I'm going to set you up for a free personal training session. Now, there's going to be some takers on that, of course, but it's a lot smaller percentage that's going to take you up on that free training session. Now, if you change your wording a little bit, change the language that you use, and it's, hey, now that you've got set up for your membership, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we get your member perks taken care of. Okay, well, what are your member perks? And then you talk through the member perks that they're getting because they just signed up. And one of those things happens to be a complimentary training session. You don't have to call it complimentary. You can actually call it a movement analysis. That's one of the terms that I've used in the past, because you want to make sure that they're getting something of value that also expires if they don't use it within a certain time frame. So that's the first thing that has to happen. So that language, that dialogue that you have within your business has to be consistent across the board with your entire team. So there is some training that goes into this, and that's where the system comes into place. Apply the system, make sure that it works for everyone, and that everybody's talking the same language in the gym. Okay, all of your staff members. If anybody starts talking about having a free training session, well, you've just cannibalized the whole process that you've been trying to build. Okay, so someone comes in, they sign up. This is the easy part. You go ahead and set them up with a complimentary training session or a movement analysis or those member perks, and you get that process going. And you don't make it a thing that's optional, right? You just work through the conversation to make sure that you're doing something of value for them because, well, hey, they just joined. Congratulations, you get these other things. So now they come in and they have an appointment. We know that of every member that joins, you're going to have right around 85% go ahead and book that appointment. 65% of them are actually going to show up to that appointment. And then you should have right around 45% convert to personal training. So I just want you to do these numbers for a second. If you have 45% of those converting, of all those numbers, working those numbers down, you end up having about 25% of the customers that sign up buy personal training. Okay, so this is what I've seen over the past 14 years in over 90 locations across 5 different states. I've seen these numbers work the same way over and over again because I've applied that system. And it's what worked for me. Maybe you've got a different solution that's working for you. If so, this podcast isn't for you. But if you're in the position where you're going, how do I grow my business? What do I need to do? Well, that's exactly it, is apply that system. Okay. Make sure that that language that you're using is used the correct way when you're talking with your customers when they join. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just a component. So that way you can get those customers coming in time and time again, and they're using personal training. They're getting results. Guess what? If people get results, what happens? They stick around, right? If they're not getting results, usually it's because they're not disciplined to come in. And this is where trainers, really have a lot of value, is making sure that the clients are accountable and they build that discipline over time. They create a habit over a course of time, usually that Pavlov's dog, the 28 days, right? Ring the bell. So they come in and they're doing their thing. And over time, it becomes a habitual process for them. They start to like fitness a little bit, right? It's not as sore as it used to be. It's not as daunting as it used to be. And that's where great trainers come into play. Okay. Now, if we just look at these numbers, the average customer that was paying, okay, or that I've had the data on is $450 a month. That's the average. Okay. It's around the same amount now because I'm doing this in a gym today. And I'm seeing right around that $450 average. And it typically doesn't matter what demographic, what region you're in. I've seen the same numbers because we've applied it across several different states and several different geographies, several different demographics, and it's the same. Okay. So as long as you have that lead flow, you have customers coming in the door, you can ride the coattails for personal training off of those customers and actually get personal training out of it. Sure, the customer who initially joined for a membership, their intent was just to come in for a membership. But why did they want to come in for a membership? Why? Because they had some kind of idea in their mind that they actually wanted to change something about themselves or improve something about themselves. There's something that's rooted within them and they need to see results, right? They're looking for some kind of result. They're not just joining. Some of them might be joining because somebody they know is there and they like that person. But most of them, that's not the reason why they join. The reason why they join is because there's something rooted deep inside them for a real purpose, a real reason why they stopped and came in. And by the way, if they're stopping in your gym, they're walk-ins, you should be closing 100% of them, right? You should be converting 100% of those customers who are walking in your doors because they have an immediate need right now. They're thinking about it right now, okay? Sure, some of them might be window shoppers, but they don't get out of their car, park their car, and walk in the door. I should say park their car and get out of their car because hopefully they didn't do it backwards. But they get in the door and then now they're talking to someone. Your team has got to be trained up for this, right? It's not a tour around the gym. It's a conversation about their health and their well-being, right? That's why you got into this thing in the first place. If you have family members, you've probably been through the process of having conversations with friends or family because they want to talk to you about fitness because you're the fitness person in the family, right? They want to know, how can I see results? How can I get past certain things? What can I do? What nutrition plan can I get on? How should I be exercising? You've probably heard these questions before. And this is one of the reasons why you got involved in owning your own gym. It was the dream. It was your passion. But if you don't implement a system, your dream and passion is going to seem like something that is a nightmare because you have bills, you have debts that you've got to pay. You took on a loan, you've got rent you got to pay because you're part of a lease that you signed a contract for 5 years, right? You can't put yourself in that position. And if you're going to put yourself in that position, boy, you better know exactly what system to implement. Otherwise, one of those guys that I know, you've got a gym that looks really nice in a great area, and they have the formula. They have that system that they can come in, implement right away. And all of a sudden, they've got a thriving business that they might go out and sell to somebody else to flip because now they've made money, right? So you got in this, sure, for passion, but you got to make a livelihood out of it. And the way to make a livelihood out of it is to make sure that you're following systems and processes. So that being said, if you're bringing in around 30 customers a month, okay, you might be losing 3 to 5 or 10% of those customers every month, right? Because there is that attrition rate. You're going to have that churn. You're going to have some people leave, and we know that. But the people that walk in the door, if they get an appointment with a coach that knows what they're doing, that's following the system, naturally, with those 30 customers every single month, what you should start seeing is the ability for you to generate revenue. And through those 30 customers over the course of 6 months at $450, that's right around $225,000, $230,000 a year. That's the lift that you get in your business. Now imagine having that lift and then going from that $230,000 or $240,000 a year, shifting that, taking some of that revenue that you're getting and pulling it right into a reactivation campaign or some kind of marketing campaign. So let's talk about reactivation campaigns because these are free. Okay, what we're talking about right now, it's all free stuff. Okay, this is, again, why I was so successful with the personal training, because all I had to do was go into a business, take the system that I had and implement it. It cost me nothing to do, literally nothing. There was $0 invested into that because it was a system. You apply the system, you push forward, and you're seeing some revenue come through the door. then you can turn around and then look for a reactivation campaign on all the customers who haven't been in a while, right? These are the suspended customers, the inactives, the canceled, the people who are not coming in, or the people that you have a list of because they were prospects at one point. They're sitting in a pile and nobody's touched them. And now you have an opportunity to call them. And what are you going to call them about? Guess what? You might call them about the fact that they have, certain perks on their account that they never used. Or if they owe you money, right? Let's say they owe you money and they went into a suspended category and maybe you're trying to push them into collections. You call them up and you let them know, I'm just giving you a call. I noticed on your account you have over $500 due, and I want to make sure that this is worth it for you. I can wipe that out completely. All we got to do is get you signed up for a new membership. Okay. And then I can wipe that off the record, right? You can go that route. And I've seen this work time and time again. Okay. And if it's somebody who doesn't owe you anything, right? They're a customer who's beyond their due date, their membership is expired or they've canceled and they're not there anymore. How can you get them back in the door? Is by having that conversation about that movement analysis or that motion assessment or the member perks that they have sitting on their account that they never took advantage of that are expiring out. You have that dialogue with them and bring them in and find out what they've been doing. Have a real genuine conversation. If you're someone who enjoys what you do, don't you enjoy talking with people about their fitness? Isn't it pretty easy to have a real genuine conversation about what they're doing in their life with their fitness routine or their nutrition? Those are things that come natural to you, most likely. So having that genuine conversation, you don't need a script for it. You just have to have a real conversation with them. Get into the moment of really caring about who they are. And if you do that, guess what? Now you're having a real conversation with them. And they're going to tell you some things, they're going to open up. And that leads to the conversation that you needed to have anyway, so they come back in the door. And like I said in the beginning, most people are not disciplined enough to go through the process. This is why when you do own a gym, if you sign up 1,000 members, not all 1,000 members are using your gym. If they did, you have to replace your equipment like every 5 months because they'd be beating it up so bad. Okay, you have like maybe 20% of your members using your gym on a regular basis, 200 workouts a day. That's usually what you see, 100 to 200 workouts a day. That's it. And it's because not everybody's disciplined enough to go through the process. They feel good about having that key tag or that key fob or that little ID that says they're a member somewhere. It feels good. It kind of satiates that mental desire of knowing that I'm involved in fitness, right? It fixes that for them. But it's actually not doing anything for them, and it's not doing them any good unless you're part of that process, okay? Insert yourself into that system and then build that process out, build that system out so you can have a repeat process. When you first started, ask yourself, what were you doing to drive traffic into your gym? You were probably having real genuine conversations with people, and there were certain things that you said that got them to come in the door, okay? So it's the same thing now, and you're just repeating it, and you got to build that system for it. Now, I don't want to get into like CRMs, the automations, because all that stuff is necessary. You have to have some of those things as part of your system so you can track and see what's been going on. And my software, hence the reason why when I went into software, I did this, right? Because I had all these locations, I had all these customers, and I had all these team members, and I had to know what they were doing. So I started building software because at the time and today, some of this stuff just isn't good enough to really monitor what's going on. So having the right systems and tools in place really helps you analyze what's going on so you can be more practical about how you're handling your KPIs, okay, or how you're handling your targets with your team members. But it all comes back down to the basics. Implement those systems, because in reality, you could do this all on an Excel spreadsheet, all on paper. And as long as you or your team members are following the process and having those conversations with the customers and implementing those things all the way through, then you see those results. Okay, so conversion strategy, number one, how to maximize those conversions. You got to be having conversations with people at the front when they come in, they join, get them on a booked appointment, take them through that process. About 65% of them, like I said, are going to show up to those appointments. Make sure that you have a process in place to make sure those customers go, wow, pretty enlightening. I should probably be doing some training. I probably should be working with a coach. Okay, it'll make sense to 25% of those people. so you can convert them on some training. Okay. And you do that process over and over. Within 6 months, you have enough customers to justify nearly $250,000 a year. Okay. But it takes time to build it. And then you can take that revenue. And like I said, you can go back into some marketing campaigns. But the first one is getting involved with a reactivation campaign with all of those customers that are there. They're sitting there, right? Those are opportunities. They've either been in your gym before, and if they didn't like it, allow that as an opportunity to show them why they should come back, right? Why did they not like it? Did they have a bad experience? Take the opportunity right there to show them how you can give them a great experience. Okay, win them over, bring them back into your facility, bring them back into your gym. And if it takes you personally to do it, then maybe that's the person that should do it. Now, don't get me wrong. Some customers, some coaches, just like some coaches, you don't want them working with you, right? It's not always the best place to be when you have a customer who's kind of not agreeable very often and they're hard to work with and they're always complaining. Yeah, sometimes you got to let them go. But the other people, work with them. Okay. Bring them into the fold, talk to them, and see how you can generate that curiosity by having natural, genuine conversations with them. Okay. So as you go through this process and we get into the idea of reactivation campaigns and working with these people and having these text, emails, and phone calls to generate some more traffic flow, because that's also a natural lift in your revenue. Usually it's around when you do the reactivation campaigns, usually you'll see another boost. Okay. What about referrals? If you get referrals, 2 referrals for every member that joins, not only does it boost your revenue for memberships, but it also boosts your revenue for PT. You're seeing about another 30 to 50% growth in personal training revenue just off of that. Okay. So add another 30% even on to $250K a year. Okay. Now I'm using the number of 30 members a month. So you have that. Now you have a huge opportunity to take some of that revenue, go out and spend it on marketing and be the leader in your category, in your area, in your market. You can be the one that everybody knows is the place to go for personal training. Now, you could also be the one that everybody knows just does a ton of marketing and campaigns and you don't have quality trainers, which is why on the back end, you got to make sure you got great trainers. I've seen trainers in clubs, and this is one of the reasons why I've been able to go into gyms and turn things around, because one of the biggest faults that they have is that they hire coaches that I wouldn't coach with, I wouldn't train with, right? Are you in that position today? Are you a business owner who's just randomly hired to fill gaps because you just need a person, you need a body, and that person is probably not best suited to train you? And if they're not best suited to train you, I can tell you right now, they're probably not best suited to give the best high-level quality experience to another client. That's what you're selling, right? You're selling a broken car. Nobody wants that. You're selling the thing that's on the side of the road that somebody was giving away for free. So get the great trainers and put them in that system so that system continues to work on its own, right? Now, if you go out and let's say you're going, man, but I can't hire the great trainers. That's fine. In the beginning, just get the great trainers, because the rest of your team that you hire down the road, okay, let's say they get out of school, they have their degree, they're getting their certification. Who do they start to emulate? They start to emulate the ones that are great in your gym. They want to be just like them because those trainers are really great and they do a great job. So now you have these other coaches that are learning from the ones that are doing a fantastic job. Or if you have the time and you have the capacity and bandwidth and resources, maybe, don't forget systems, right? You need a system in place for this. Maybe you can go ahead and bring in potential interns, those who are learning in school or those who are just getting their certification, and help them through the process of becoming a great trainer. I've done that in the past. So, but I only did it when I actually had the time to do it, right? You can't just start out and go, okay, I'm going to bring everybody from college who have these degrees. I'm just going to bring them in and I'm going to hope that they do really well. I've hired people with PhDs in exercise physiology or biomechanics, and they were the worst coaches ever because they had no personality. They had no way to connect, because a big component with coaches, as you know, is how they interact with their clients, right? It's that dialogue that they have, okay, that natural likeness that they have about them. So I'm probably telling you a bunch of things that you already know, but the reality is it boils down to these simple things and these simple foundations. It's not going out and getting a swipe file of text messages that you can blast people with. Okay. That's the cheap, easy way to do things. How do you grow your business and how do you interact with other businesses? Those are the questions that you got to ask yourself, because if you're asking yourself, how do I interact with other businesses and what would I think about this situation? Put yourself in the shoes of your customers. You're going to see tremendous results. But most importantly, you have to implement systems. You have to do it. That's all I got for today. Really passionate about this. So sorry if I got amped up a little bit, but if you need a little bit of help, in the show notes, I'm going to go ahead and put a little calculator there. 2 things that you can get from me. One is, where should you really be in revenue based on the numbers that you're doing today for personal training? And the second thing that you're going to be able to utilize and see is just a tracker. It's a sales production tracker for personal training. You can go ahead and click on it. You can download it. You can have that, use that as your tool so you can track your coaches or track your locations on how well they're performing. Okay. Because if it's not getting tracked and it's not getting measured, it's probably not going to happen. Thanks again for listening. This is Michael Benso signing off for Sweat Success Podcast. Boy, that was a mouthful. I'll see you guys on the flip side.